Mike. A controversial Unmask ICE bill is moving through the council, targeting federal immigration enforcement. But the process has become highly contentious, with accusations of political grandstanding and internal conflict on the council. And at the same time, the Montgomery County Police staffing is down 16% since 2019. Vacancies are rising and overtime costs are exploding, indicating a structural shortage. Mike, the headline may be the Unmask ICE bill, but the real story this week is what's happening inside the county council. Councilman Will Jawando tried to force a vote using a rare procedural move, overriding the normal committee process, and it blew up on him. His colleagues, including co-sponsors, pushed back hard. The motion failed 7-4, and the debate turned personal. All this over a bill that may be preempted by the state, or even later found to be unconstitutional. So the question is, what is it really about?
It's about having the issue. And so it was really about trying to have some way to differentiate yourself and be able to try and do something that appears as though you're trying to address the progressive wing of the party. And that was the thing. And so if we put this off until after the state legislature had already acted, then potentially Will loses this issue. And so Will didn't want to lose this issue, so he tried to force it to a head. And while on the vote perspective, it looks as though he lost, from a controversy and from a public perception perspective, it looks like he was trying to take a firm stand, and which I think is really unfortunate, because I think this is an important issue, and I think it should be something that we try to address, but it's something that we collectively need to work on, and the state is already going down this road, and I think that the council and the chair of that committee, Sidney Katz, had scheduled a work session for right after the legislature would have departed Annapolis, which would have given the ability to take a look at this bill in the context of whatever the state had done. And I think it's really unfortunate where they got to. But I think from Will's perspective, he got exactly what he needed, which was the ability to have headlines and show that he was trying to do something, even though he really was just trying to get the issue.
Okay, so Mark, this looks like it wasn't a policy dispute. There was a breakdown in how the council operates. You had members of the same party, even co-sponsors, angry about the tactics. So, ultimately, what does it say about the leadership and governments in the county council right now?
Well, let me say, I think Mike was right on. It was kind of a virtual signaling exercise by a candidate who is appealing to a base, and obviously with multiple candidates in the county executive race, finding a lane that is that much more attractive is going to let him stand out. And I think that's precisely what happened here. Clearly, the legislature is going to do something, and he wanted to get in ahead of that.
Who are the four that voted, I guess, in favor of support? Was Friedson one of those guys?
I think Andrew did vote in favor of it. So I think it was Andrew, Kristen Mank, Lorianne Sales, and Will were the four.
So Glass voted against it, I would presume.
Yeah, and again, I think that it's a hard one to kind of say whose side. I think the council the council as a whole is supportive of this legislation, and I think that was the point that was lost in all of this, because he wanted to try and somehow divide everyone and see we're on one side or the other. And I don't believe that's true. I think that the council said, to your point at the very beginning, if the state's going to do something, it preempts us. We think it's an important issue. Let's actually make a decision that's based on what the context of at the right time is, and take the right action. And I think that's unanimous among the council members. And so to kind of go down this road, I think is really unfortunate, because it appeared to be divisive in a place that they're not divided at all.
Adam Pagnucco has been writing a series of articles on fundraising by the county council candidates. I mean, how does that play into this at all? I mean, just for fundraising purposes, these actions are being done. And who do you think has the lead right now in the primary? And Mike, I'll go to you first.
Please.
No, I think it will. I think it's just a matter of time. You saw that Evan had come out with a couple things. He did a data center task force, and he had the ICE detention center and private facilities legislation that I don't think was actually going to ever happen in Montgomery County. But he did that and has used that in kind of his mailers. I expect that you will see Will put this out from fundraising in short order. When you look at the overall numbers, Andrew has raised more money than the two of them significantly, even with matching funds. As far as kind of who's leading, I've heard there's a little bit of polling out there at this point, and I think that there is an element that Will has a bit of a lead, but candidly, we're just getting to a point that I think residents are starting to even pay attention or acknowledge that this is even an election year. And so anybody claiming that they have a lead right now, I think it's, it's being up by 5 in the first quarter and claiming victory. And I don't think anybody's there yet.
Well, as we've seen in other disputed primaries, a solid core minority can carry the day for split voting. And Mark, do you have any sense about what's going on?
Well, I was going to say, and these are very hard because of those issues that you just described. These are very hard issues to poll because you don't know precisely who's coming in. You can surmise the really hardcore voters, but sometimes there's some additional issues that will bring in that will resonate. And it's also difficult when essentially you have a three-way race. The dynamic can shift as the perception as to who the two that are the dominant candidates may shift. So it's kind of early days.
Well, does Jawando have the Mark Elrick supporters behind him in this race? I mean, I'm kind of curious as to how everybody stacks up.
He's trying to position himself for that, and you'll see that he, from the very beginning, I mean, Mark came to his campaign kickoff for this, and I think he's tried to court that population, and so I think there's a percentage of that's probably with him. Mark's base is a very unique amalgamation of voters in Montgomery County and cultivated over 30 years of kind of NIMBYism,
Right.
progressivism, a variety of different things, kind of the no-growthers. And so to kind of replicate that and be able to get those coattails is a hard one to get to. That's it. And so I think will get some of the progressive side of that. I don't know that he gets the rest of it. And I think that's kind of why a lot of this
maybe a
thing is
split
out there
there
right now.
And Andrew obviously is looking for the business type who may have voted for Blair the last time.
He's looking for centrist Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'd want to just be business. I think he'd want to say, centrist common sense Democrats would be the way he'd position it.
Okay. Well, we have one more topic.
I think to that.
Go ahead, Mike.
So, go ahead.
Finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, and I think to that end, it's interesting to see where the three of them have put in legislation. I think Evan and Will have both put in legislation that is more signaling and not necessarily as concrete. Where I think Andrew, they just passed a piece of legislation where really try and incentivize new industrial development in the biohealth sector and also new multi-use development and try to accelerate those types of developments. And I think recognizing that we don't have job growth or housing growth, and so let's try to do some substantive things there. And so I think you're seeing kind of lines being drawn in that perspective as well.
All right. So we got one more topic to talk about. And I was struck by the fact that the police chief testified last week again about, the lack of recruitment, how understaffed we are in Montgomery County. We talked about this, 9 months ago, I think. And, I was struck by the reporting, which always focuses on, is there enough money being paid in salaries, or is there enough money being paid in bonuses? But some of this, comes down to whether or not, if you're a young officer, Mark, looking at Montgomery County and you see years of criticism from police and policy, and you know that the federal government's obviously hiring a lot of cops these days, why would you come to Montgomery County?
That is certainly an issue, but I'd also point to housing costs in Montgomery County. If you're law enforcement, you're going to be stretched to be able to live in the county, and as a result, other jurisdictions that perhaps have more housing opportunities are going to be attractive. So, I don't disagree with you, but I also think we have some other cost of living issues that are unique to Montgomery County.
Okay, and Mike, what's your sense of this? I mean, do you think it's just a matter of perception that Montgomery County is unfriendly to police and they don't want to be here, or as Mark is saying, you got to pay them because it's an expensive place to live? Real quick.
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of both. I mean, as we've said here before, I don't think you've heard the county executive really speak in support of the police. I mean, he recognizes that we need law enforcement, but he hasn't really said anything that this is our department. We're proud of them. And I think the council has typically gone after them. And I don't think there's been clarity as to what we expect the role of police to be. And so if in an ever-changing landscape, I think it's hard to be a police officer in Montgomery County, but I also think the costs are very challenging. Most of our police officers don't live in the county right now anyway. And so I think the reality is that it only gets harder and harder as costs continue to increase to live here.
Well, I think the signaling from the council and the chief and the county executive over the last 6 years has been very damaging to what was once a really stellar police force. And I don't know. I don't think you can run a government where you criticize the police on Monday and wonder why on Tuesday they're not doing the job.